Leafs Talk, JD Bunkis, Justin Bourne. I don't think there's things in sports I hate more than watching the Leafs lose to the Habs. Like, it's a very small list of things that just, like, that second period tonight, I'm watching football. My bets are crumbling. I did just hit a huge Boston Scott touchdown prop, but outside of that, nightmare night. I don't really feel like watching the Leafs play some lethargic, terrible hockey team on a Saturday. And I go, all right, at least they start just kicking the ass of Montreal, rightfully so. You know, Giordano scores and it's Owen Sound night. It feels good. Our boy Sam's there getting loaded. And then that second period happened, and I took it as a bit of a personal affront. I was not happy.
They're like, we do not want you to have this good a Saturday night. I mean, I feel like, so I just consulted Sportsnet stats, and Montreal is actually 6,000-0 against the Leafs over the past. I just
like to see one win in my lifetime
every night.
Yeah, just one time. Just beat them one time.
It's unbelievable. Cool. And the worst part about watching the Leafs play the Habs is there's always something missing from their game that is present the rest of the year. An energy level, you saw in the third when it's 2-2 and okay, they're going to go be the Leafs and they control play for 15 straight minutes and stuff it down their throat. But they refuse to do that prior to having to do it.
Yeah. I just, anyway, do you buy into the idea too? Like, is this just me being a sensitive guy or an idiot when I think that the Leafs, who lost in such an embarrassing fashion, like, to me, one of the lowest moments of an original six franchise to Montreal, that they shouldn't be a little bit more hard against a Canadiens team that embarrassed them? Like, I know that there's been.
You're talking about the playoff series loss?
Yeah, of course. Like, I know that those Habs players aren't the same. Like, it wasn't Marty St. Louis behind the bench. Like, I don't even know what Montreal Canadiens are there still. Like, I guess Caulfield and Anderson. It's a very small select group of guys who are actually still from that team. Yeah. But, like, you see those sweaters, those fans care. They embarrassed you in a way that, like, you have never felt as players. Just kick their ass. Like, that. They've been good this year, so it's hard to just rip on the Leafs because they've been good most nights. But yeah, it's something about it bothers me that you don't show up against a rival on a Saturday night for 3 periods, a team that embarrassed you in the past. Like, I don't know if that's a fair assessment or a fair take or just a fan.
I know it's like an emotional reaction, but it does feel like they, like, if there's a gallon of milk on the counter, you'll only lift as hard as you need to lift the milk. And the Leafs always want to lift that exact amount. They never want to use any extra energy. So I still feel like, even though they were embarrassed by Montreal once upon a time, there's this, like, it's Montreal. They're in 31st place. Yeah. We don't have to lift a full gallon of milk. We'll just give it a little effort. It should do it. And if it doesn't, well, we'll try harder, and then we should be able to lift it later. Like, they just expect they're going to win these games, I think. I mean, I know that's a lot of, like, psychoanalyzing based on body language, but we've seen what this team can do over the course of the hockey season. It didn't look a whole lot like that. And by the way, was there an element of you that wanted any more physicality on some of the goalie stuff, or were you fine with how that played out?
Anyway, I hated tonight, and I'm really having a hard time with this because
I like that you hated tonight. That makes me happy.
They played really well in the first period, and they came out exactly like I expected them to, where they just dominated them, and it was
they played like 40 good minutes tonight.
Yes, and then the third, they were solid again too. I did think, though, like, the third period is one of those, if you looked at just like the analytics chart, it would tell you that the Leafs are really good. But watching it did not feel that way. Like, and I know Montreal closes it with a power play or whatever, but yeah, they didn't feel like overly threatening for a lot of the times.
Yeah. The even strength, like, time of possession was heavy. The Leafs 21 minutes to 16. They had possession for 6 minutes to 3 for Montreal. Like, they controlled the game by the numbers heavily.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying I know that if you look at the charts, it's going to tell you that the Leafs are really good tonight and that it was fine and all the measurements were good. And this is where I disagree. I disagree. I don't feel like that they were hard on pucks tonight. I don't feel like they gave a ton of energy. I think that they out-talented a team with, like, 6 guys who I was like, I've never heard of that guy before. I've never.
Oh, I know. I was actually watching the game, and that guy scored, Harvey, whatever it was. And I was like, I got to learn who this guy is tonight.
No, you don't. No.
Not tonight anyway. I didn't.
Oh, some Habs fan in the YouTube is gonna leave a vicious comment for that joke. Yeah, I didn't feel like it was an overly intense game from them. And let me just ask you this, like, what stars do you think tonight for Toronto played like really well?
I mean, you got 20 minutes of Nylander in the third period.
Yeah.
Is Bobby McMann a star?
No, but it was funny because I think you and I both liked him tonight too. And I know that doing Leafs talk, I just want to preface this quickly to the fans of the show, to listeners of the show. Listen, I think we've done actually a really good job of trying to highlight when the Leafs top guys have been really good.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of bunting conversations. Yeah, exactly. And we've had a lot of bunting conversations. We've had a lot of defense conversations, like a lot of goaltender conversations. Like what Leafs talk for basically a month was just discussing how good Mitch Marner is, right? Like the last game was a lot of Matthews praise. I think that people probably wonder why sometimes we spend so much time on the bottom six, but yeah, it's just a new thing. And I will say that McMann, to me anyway, well, let me just ask you, what do you think of him first? What do you think of him?
So he's one of those guys that I don't think I can explain why I like him as much as I do, but I really, really like him.
So do I.
I just feel like he is stronger. So Colin Greening played for the Marlies when I was there, and he was like Hercules. Like his body, he's just like cut out of granite, strongest guy, could pull off, like a team of ox behind him type of guy. And everything that I hear, from people at the Marlies is that's Bobby McMann. Like Greening level, fitness, strength, all that. Very fast, very hard shot. So raw toolsy like Engvall, but more mental awareness of like how to use it. There's still flaws. Obviously, I don't think he's going to score like Engvall is supposed to. He's not a natural defensive guy.
He's not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to shoot it.
Not afraid
which
to
I
shoot
like.
at all.
Like I like that because you keep doing that and sorry to interrupt, but I just feel like a guy like that, the reason why I like him is the aggression and the fact that like he's around the play a lot. When I think about the Leafs in the playoffs and always just needing that like bottom six dirty goal, even though he's not producing right now, I just kind of feel like he's a guy who gets
not. He's had 9 pucks in the crease in 4 games or whatever.
That's what I mean. And I'm just like, this guy might get a dirty playoff goal that they need.
Yeah. You know what I really liked, JD, was in his very first game. There was a couple instances where he was behind a defenseman and he could have waited behind the D-man to throw a glass rattler on the forecheck, and he just kept skating and passed the guy and was the first guy on the puck and took the hit. So he took the hit, protected the puck in his skates, and then the Leafs were on offense. As a first-time call-up guy who's a physical guy, that's a great chance to go make it look like you made an impact with a hit. But he went and got the puck and took the hit. And I like that he seems to have the offensive game in mind. He's scoring some goals with the Marlies. I think he had 24 goals there last year. Like, he's not a guy who can't do that. So I also like that he's cheap. You put him on the fourth line, tell him to get it in deep and do the right things, and they don't have a ton of those guys.
So I think I told this to Sam. I may have already said this on Leafs Talk, but when Joe Wall got hot, I started asking Marlies people, like, hey, what's up with the Joe Wall thing? And pretty universally, I got back, like, it's really hard to tell with goalies, and who knows, and he's playing pretty good. And don't forget Keith Petruzzelli, like, ripped it up, too, for a while and whatever. But people unsolicited were like, who's, like, might be a player, though, is McMann.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then, like, pretty shortly after, he gets the call up.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of going, all right, Marlies people, like,
who else
let's
you got?
See.
Is
because
there more?
I've been like, you know me, I'm not watching. I've got too much on my plate. I'm not watching Marlies games. But
listen, I'm not either.
Yeah, and I feel kind of dismissive sometimes of not watching it, but also even of like how quick I am to write certain guys off. Like, I'm sorry, but I did see enough of Alex Steves' whole career with the Leafs last year that I'm like, I'll never be excited about that. Like, I just won't.
Who's the other guy too? There's another guy that had anyway. But they were a couple guys.
And like, it's just, I don't know if it's because there are so many Leafs who like do kind of similar things. Like they've gotten similar types of players, and even some of the guys that they've tried to get that are a little bit tougher are, it's just, he seems to have like the skating, the size. He doesn't mess around. Like there's nothing cute about his game. There's no cuteness at all.
And he's not going to fight. You're right. He's
straight lines to the net, goes north, not afraid of contact, and very aggressive, like overly aggressive shooting the puck. Like, do you know who you are? And he's like, nah.
Don't look for
I'm
someone
like,
else.
Cool. Like, I like it. And he's just in dirty areas. He's around the play a lot. He's around the net. I enjoy watching him play. And I thought Dryden Hunt stood out originally for some of the same reasons, but he's not around the play offensively as much as.
Hunt is like, he's an energy personality guy
Yeah.
to me. He plays with like a vibrancy and like goes after guys and yaps a bit, and like he'll get himself in some trouble out there in a good way.
Yep.
So I think it depends what you're looking to have brought to a game or a playoff series. Like if these guys are your 12th and 13th forwards, I think you can say, hey, we're down 2-0 and it's been sleepy. Let's put Hunt on the fourth line, see if he could be an electric shock. And otherwise, I prefer the way that McMann plays, and we're probably over discussing this guy,
but whatever. It's a loss to Montreal on a Saturday night where like they basically just took a period off. It cost them, it bit them in the ass, and they lose in overtime, which they do like all except for one time where
Rem Pitlick scores for Montreal. Yeah. Can you imagine if your team was so bad you had Rem Pitlick on the ice in overtime?
Dude, like again, that was one of the frustrating points about Montreal. It's not like they're like this young, hungry team that's about to be like breaking into the next level. I liked the effort from a talentless team really in Montreal. Like, look how Montembeault battled tonight in net. And I'm like, look at this guy. He's just out here grinding away. He made that idiotic play behind the net where
that's
he went
so condescending. Like, out there, he's just doing his best.
He was. Well, actually, he's been kind of decent this year. Like, you look at his numbers on that team, he's like pretty decent. Like, he's pretty sneaky. Okay.
Actually, saw Mike Kelly said that he's one of the league leaders in stolen games for a team.
Well, yeah, dude, he's on that Montreal Canadiens team, and he's got like a save of around 910. You don't do that unless you're having a good season.
Yeah.
So
that's really good.
Respect to him. But he battled tonight. I like the compete from a lot of the Habs players. Again, it just didn't feel like guys
they were all over
taking shifts
Samsonov.
off. Yeah. Dude, but again, that second period, Samsonov made some killer grade A saves. Here's a couple things I love from Samsonov tonight. Maybe this is the way that we pivot into the conversation about him. When he gets the strap knocked off his helmet and then he bucks it off and is mad, like the level of hot he got at the official, I loved, because I'm not around the room, and I know he's obviously a competitive guy. He's made the NHL, but there's been some things about, whether or not he can lose confidence pretty easily.
Sam called him Russian Jack Campbell.
Yeah, exactly, which I think is very unfair. But he also, whenever he's talking to the media, it's always like a cutesy clip, right? Or a down and out clip.
Yeah.
And seeing him be like, giving it to an official and being red hot and getting to see like the competitor no mask, I went, hell yeah. Well, you're in the zone right now, and you want the respect from the official. You don't want to be missing stuff. You're just dialed in. And like that moment where I thought he was hurt a little bit before then, I really got like nervous and kind of panicky, because he's been playing so damn good recently. This is his net. And, it was an observation by you probably about a month ago when these guys were playing poorly and Keefe wasn't pulling anybody, and you were talking about how they're way too rigid with the plan in terms of how to deploy these guys. I am very curious how like the next little phase is going to play out in terms of trying to be fair to Matt Murray. He's a guy that's got a history with literally everybody that is like in the organization, essentially, like, because they're all from the Sioux.
Yes,
so
he is their collective son.
Exactly. Like, they all have an emotional investment in him. He's the guy that's under contract for another year. Samsonov isn't. Anyway, like, I think that this battle is going to go down to the stretch. I talked about it with Sam multiple times that I don't think that Samsonov is going to lock this thing up to the point where he's playing, 70% of the games anyway. But yeah, the hotter he gets and the better he plays and the more command he feels like he has, the athleticism difference between him and Murray at this point is like becoming like painfully obvious in terms of the caliber of save he can make versus Murray. I am curious that like how this plays out and whether or not like their fun relationship that they've had because of such defined lines, which has been reported over and over, shifts a little bit as one guy starts to get a little bit more for maybe the, first time since they've both been healthy.
Well, and what's interesting is like it hasn't been that one guy has been awesome and the other has stunk. Like they kind of went back and forth and were both good for a while or both bad for a while. And Samsonov, had a couple of good games, really a half a game and another good game. And Keefe was like, that's enough for me. Put him back in. Like they seem to be looking for one of these guys to step up and be the guy. So it is interesting that they seem to be leaning towards giving him that opportunity. Pressure on Matt Murray now to come in, play a couple of games, and make it clear that it's not decided who it's going to be yet. That's the fight down the stretch, is which of these guys goes on a run, really.
See, this is what I thought was interesting, though. I would have guessed Murray got the net tonight. That was the case I made, was put him back in. Like the way that they've been scheduling these guys, Murray was supposed to get the net tonight, and they didn't give it to him. They gave it to Samsonov. And guess what? Samsonov played incredibly well. I'm guessing that they would make the case, hey, you actually played a lot harder than we expected you to tonight. That second period was pretty taxing. You had a moment where we thought you were hurt for a second. So it's easy to get Matt Murray into the net on Monday. But there is also just the counter argument of like, look how good this guy's going. Maybe, do you get a day off? You get a night off. Do you really not want him playing from Saturday until Wednesday? There's just a bit of a sneaky kind of case to keep rolling him. I think that they'll probably go to Murray, and just this is less of a deal than I'm making it out to be. But yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy watching Samsonov play, and I just like seeing a guy dialed in, and he's so clearly dialed in right now.
Yeah, and I was also thinking that part of you probably loves that goaltender reaction, knowing the passion of the great Leaf goalies here, whether it's Curtis Joseph or Potvin or who the energy those guys had. And then Freddie Anderson was, his whole thing was being cool, calm, no reaction. Jack Campbell, nice guy. Peter Mrazek, couldn't even believe he was still in the league.
I've blacked out every Peter Mrazek memory that I have. I've just
gone. Do you remember in press conferences, he'd give up 6 and he'd be like,
no, all gone. They're all gone. And except for one thing, which was Sam saying the first time we got to look at Mrazek in a preseason because of his style, him texting me going, I know you're going to love Mrazek because of his style. And I went, I will not. I've already seen him a bunch and I'm not a fan. And I roasted that contract day one on my show. And so, yeah, I'm less likely to come off of a take right away based on some flair if I put it down in basically hard cement that I'm really against a contract. Anyway,
he played like he was allergic to bee stings and he was just knocked over a hive. Like he was fighting it out there.
I don't have much. I liked, again, shout out to Owen Sound. I liked that a lot of their guys were prominent in this game tonight. It was just like a fun moment for our boy Sam, who's down there right now.
How do they not have Sam on the broadcast, by the way? No brainer for me to have a chit chat with Sammy. Have Ron talk to Sam about Owen Sound.
This is one of those things where I got to do actually, what's funny? I didn't get to be involved in Hockey Day in Canada when it was in Whitehorse. You're aware of this, right?
I didn't know that, but didn't you do a voiceover?
Yeah, but that was for Northwest Territories.
Oh, no.
They came to me and they were like, it's in
It's kind of the same place.
No, they went, it's in the Yukon. And I wrote this script and I got like pretty emotional about it. Like I really went deep in the what does this place really mean to me and tried to set myself back in it. And dude, honestly, and Sam is very much like me in this regard. And it's one of our real connector pieces as friends is we're both from small towns and like we both grew up playing hockey in these tiny little places. And like, we're very into Canadiana. Like both of us are just, very proud Canadian kids from small towns, and the Hockey Night in Canada stuff like really, moves us in a certain way. And so I was like very happy for Sam that he got to go and spend time with the festivities, because I know what it means to him, because I know what Whitehorse's Hockey Day did for me. Like my next door neighbor ended up getting profiled in a Hockey Day in Canada. I still have the DVD in my apartment, it meant something to me. Right. So I wrote this thing knowing that it was going to be a part of Hockey Night. And I was really emotional doing it. And then I handed them over the tape and they were like, it's in Northwest Territories. I was like, and the worst part is they just had me edit 1 or 2 lines and instead make it about the North. And there's so many crossovers between the two places that I did it. But yeah, it still stings to this day that one of my most shared things on social media, you can probably still find if you just put JD Bunkis
the North. It's beautiful. It's really good.
Thanks, man.
And you're right. It does, it has the meaning and still all does ring true, but.
Yeah, no, but it was just so funny that they were like, it's just like if anything, that should have been included in the little thing I wrote is, we're always confused for the same place. That's our most thing. It's that's how the rest of the world sees us. Anyway, my only last thing is, so this keeps coming up, and I just want to bring it up with you quickly. Because, we talked about second period first. We talked about Samsonov. quickly before we go. What's up with the Giordano icing things? Like, he just ices it with reckless abandon, and it's become like a thing that I can't stop fixating on now. Do you have a thought on this?
Well, I don't remember. Did I give you the stats on it that it's a thing?
No.
It's a very real thing. Oh, I actually looked up the stats on most icings in the NHL, and he's in the bottom 5 people. So of the 5 worst guys, he's iced it, like, when I checked a couple weeks ago, it was 26 times or something absurd, like a lot. But the rest of the list was like Letang, Rasmus Dahlin, like good players. Oh, Dougie Hamilton.
Well, you got to be on the ice a lot to do it a lot.
And a certain type of player too. Like I think he must look for more stretch passes. He must have a vision maybe that other D-men don't. So he tries things. But Gio now, it does feel more like old guy. I need a minute. Like,
I think so too. It's funny watching him do it because it's like so many times I watch it now. It's never like, oh, whoops. It's like, it's not like he's trying to make a stretch pass and he misses the guy, right? Or it doesn't get tipped by the forward. It's like, he's like taking a wrist shot. He's just like, it's dumping it down the ice.
The Leafs are an elite face-off team. Yeah. It could be that he's like, 56% chance we get this back.
I think that's got to be it. Like, he seems to do it. Like, he did it again tonight and a couple of times where I was just like, wow, he just does it with like so little thought for even the other play. Like, he does it as though it's like it's his move, like a dice move. Anyway.
He's the one guy that if they could still flip the puck over the glass, he's the one guy who'd be doing it.
Yeah. I also have a stat for you. And I'm going to elaborate on this more on my show on Monday, on my podcast on Monday, once I've had a little bit more time with it. I got this from our boy Blake.
Okay.
Asking about like power play stuff. 294 players have played 200 plus power play minutes since 2020. Rielly ranks 271st in power play goals per 60. If you think that's unfair, as he wrote, because we're, including forwards in this and he's a defenseman, he's 50th out of 66, 53rd in shots and 63rd in points percentage out of 66 guys, 63rd in points percentage. So it's like since 2020, he's been actually like, there's just this big thing about Rielly on the power play. And Sam's been arguing about it a lot with me about like how you have to have a defenseman out there. And Versteeg came on my show the other day and talked about how they should give a look at Liljegren. And I agree. He had a bomb again tonight where he just looks good and poised. And like for a team that is as analytically aware as the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd like that slid across their desk, please. And an explanation back from the front office and coaching staff and Carberry and co. as to why like a sample size that now extends back like 3 years. That's as jarring as that is. Like the eye test and the numbers are very connected here. Yeah. And Morgan Rielly still does not have a goal. And I'm at a breaking point with this where I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like this now just seems like pure. This guy is. You're
right. Like with Liljegren, give him a chance. Is it Sandin? Like after that, it's like, it isn't Brody. It's not Hall, like it's so not a ton of options, but yeah, I see it with Rielly. I've been on your page complaining about that, but I don't love, I think if you have 5D, teams are going to look to eat you alive shorthanded. Every opportunity they get, way more, like you're begging for extra rushes against. So, I want to have a D out there too, but I don't know, maybe, what Kipper, he's joked about, Erik Karlsson, and I'm not serious there, but like Klingberg or one of these offensive guys. And my gut instinct is that's not what they need. They need a physical D-man. How much better are they if they have a true PP1 D-man up there?
I'd love to. I want to see Liljegren and Sandin get more shots, and I want if Morgan Rielly is the leader that we think he is, and I do think that he is that, then this should not be a major issue. Like you've already got your paycheck, so what's the problem? Go run power play 2 and prove that this is some kind of a mistake. But
love that idea. Love him on TV.
But as of right now, like it's just the facts are the facts, and it's another night where it's like, what did he do? And it's like another night where.
I also want to say before we go that in overtime, he just does not bother being a defenseman. He doesn't care if he's the last man back on the back check, where he is positionally in the rink. I'm looking at Nylander playing defense on rushes against, and Rielly's waiting for the play to go the other way. I I am not by any means a Rielly hater. I think he's a fine player, but I don't trust some of his offensive instincts.
I'm trying not to just have confirmation bias with him, because I do recognize that, like,
right.
I know that I'm noticing when he like turns the puck over and writing that down in my notes, and I'm not writing down in my notes when he like makes a great breakout pass that lands on someone's stick. I make one when he makes a spectacular play, and I go, okay, like the other night where he takes the bump and he puts it on Dryden Hunt's stick for a goal. But like, yeah, I didn't think he was very good tonight. And I thought that there were a couple of moments in that second period, especially when Montreal really started to pour it on, that he just looked completely lost. And then you mentioned it in overtime, it was just complete abdication of any type of responsibility. And I went, yeah, there's just some stuff here where I'm going, this is just not it right now. It truly might be something where a year from now, I think he'll get away with it this year, but next year, like, I think it's going to be really, really hot in terms of how they justify like the contract.
Can't just give a guy a PP1 on one of a cup contending team if he's not having success.
No. Well, that's the thing, is like, when does it change? Like, when does it change in an all-in year? Like, when do you take a look? Because this does feel like now, however many games are left, like 30 practices. Okay. So if you're going to have 30 practices that are, in-game scrimmages, and you've already done the 5-forward thing, and you don't think that you're going to trust that because of the reasons that you outlined. I also talked to Versteeg about that, because he ran the point on a 5-man power play. And he told me, like, you know what, it takes so many reps to be able to learn how to walk the line that you just can't do it.
I played it in college, and I never figured it out. It's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, you need a defenseman to do it, like, unless you're going to run that for an entire year with the guys. And they're not going to do that with Mitch. So, yeah, try the other kids.
Shout out one thing before we go. We're in the Islanders hat. A year ago today, we lost Clark Gillies, so a little tribute to Clarky today. Good man, loved him a lot. So we're in the aisles for him tonight, not on a Leaf show. Sorry about that, fans.
No, that's not. You shouldn't be sorry about that at all. I watched the tribute videos that your wife Bree put out.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, what a life that guy.
Full
had.
Life, dude, full.
Like, just watching all the charitable endeavors that he was involved in, and like the family, and just like it. I mean this as a compliment for a guy that had such an incredible career that he had. For it to seem like such a small part of who he was as a man is astounding.
It's a 3-minute video. I think there's like 3 clips of him in a hockey jersey.
Yeah.
To define his life. It's pretty crazy. And that is, 68 years, but he got his money's worth,
No, dude, like I said, I could not get over. I watched it over twice, and I was like emotional, and I was just looking at it, and then I had to refrain from like texting you guys, but I was just like, okay, this is just something. Like, this guy was really a something. Anyway,
it's a high bar, but it's a good to have aspirational the sort of target there for me. That's dude, the aim,
So great that you had him in your life as just someone that you could role model after, and also for your wife that, like, I think that really does say something about you. Not to get too deep into this as Leafs talk, but I think that does say something about you, that she married you when she had that as her father figure. Like,
that's awfully nice of you to say.
Well, it's true. Anyways, I love you, buddy. Anyway,
I look forward to. We're going to do a full hour with JD in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk more serious stuff.
For now, subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe to Real Kipper and Bourne as well, and to the JD Bunkis podcast. You can leave 5 stars on every one of these properties. You can share them when the video comes out, and the podcast gets shared. We always appreciate that. And for our YouTube watchers, leave that little thumbs up. Takes 2 seconds. Let's do it.
Just click it.
Just click it. Anyway, share it. We'll catch you on Monday night after that Islanders game. We'll see you then.